The people know who you are. Obviously, I've known you for years, and we've worked together for years, and and I've known you in different eyesights and everything else. So maybe you could start off talking about your story while you're younger and who you are first and everything.
So I was born and raised in a little farming community in Manitoba, Sperling. I went to the same school my grandfather did. It was a very small three classroom. I think we had the highest amount of students of 42. Um, and from there, then we had to travel from there to go to junior high and high school. So it was a very grounding, very connected way of life. We were a generation. I was born. I guess I was raised in a generational farm. So my great grandfather built the home that I was raised in, and then my grandfather and my dad, and then ourselves. So it was nice to have that stability of roots and grounding when I was growing up. Um, of course, not everything in small communities are easy to have access to. So things like we just had a small community grocery store and a post office and an ice rink in our town. So to do things like swimming, dance, or we'd have to, of course, drive. Um, we had a small curling area on our rink. Back then, we didn't have artificial ice. We had natural ice. So of course, very different if you've ever stepped on artificial. Um, so
I had a friend of mine tell me once that he was in such a small community when he was raised, they had to count the cows to get on the census.
yeah, we were a small town. I think maybe 500. Yeah. So we had a very small school, like I was saying, and eventually things happened, and I had moved to another town with my mom and my sister. My dad was actively participated in our life. He drove us around to many school events, even did some, parenting with, camps and such, curling. So I had graduated in 1991 from Carmen Collegiate, and that's from Carmen and Sperling weren't that far away from each other. So I decided that I didn't have all that I needed when I graduated. So I had took an extra year of school and then decided that, I wanted to do something else with my life. So I hopped on board to Alberta. Um, I went to college in Alberta. After 2 years in the rural Olds area, I decided I'd move to Red Deer. Red Deer was very well. That's where I met my first husband. And we had built a home out in Black Falls, and that's where we raised the first part of our family. I went to school got my degree in nursing with Red Deer College. It was a collaborative program with U of A.
Didn't you just retire from that last year because of your accident?
Yes, I did.
That's
I
a
did.
long stretch there, right?
That was a long stretch. My I started working in nursing as a student in 2003, and the last year I worked was in 2021. And then just decided there was lots of things going on with nursing, and so I just decided that I would just step out and see what other things that I could pursue. But then this accident has also happened, so um, it's
Yeah, but long before this accident, though, you had some very valuable success. Uh,
yes, I did.
and there's a different part that people don't know yet.
Yes, yes. I did have some great successes in nursing. Um, did you want to talk about those now?
Yeah, yeah, do it now. I mean, might as well get it out there open, let people know. And we're
Sure.
just going to openly talk about different things and no
Okay.
sequence or anything like that. Just kind of go with it.
In 2015, I was looking for some work. My little one was in pre-kindergarten, so I needed a work that was flexible so that I could pick her up from school. But at that same time, I was also going through a divorce. So I couldn't work full time at I had just recently over that short amount of time I had lost my dad and my grandpa. So things were very unstable. So I just needed to find something that I could connect, still be mom and still connect with nursing. So I had taken a position with Red Deer Catholic Social Services, and there was a group of staff there that was serving a group of individuals who were in group homes. So uh, various some different needs. However, Alberta had amalgamated all their health cares from south, north, east, and west. So Alberta Health Services required that all individuals that worked for the institution or for the corporation, that everyone be have a certificate. So a lot of places had, which is known as a healthcare aid, were not certified to work. So I was asked to implement a program, and it was affiliated with Alberta Health Services. And I made a healthcare aid program over 6 months, and I taught it over the next 6 months so that they were grandfathered in, yet the individuals in our care were never displaced or moved or relocated. It allowed the staff that I was certifying for the healthcare aid program to still work and bring in an income as well. So that was one of my first successes. And those
Good. Yeah, I like that a lot.
they they required an RN to teach it, so it was 2 years. It was a great boast in my career. My second boast came when I decided to take a management position with Covenant Care, Villa Marie, and uh, they work side by side with Alberta Health Services, but they are a different healthcare system. And they had a short-term living residence in Red Deer, but the demand was very high, and a lot of individuals were having to stay in hospital versus going on to not being able to go home, but were requiring long-term care. But Red Deer just didn't have those spaces. So initiative was brought, and Covenant Care Villa Marie decided to extend their short-term care to long-term care as well. So during the building part, they hired various RNs, LPNs, healthcare aides. So it was a great to collaborate at that part. So I was an RN care manager. So it was good to be mentored as well. However, when the doors opened,
Always nice. It's always nice being mentored.
yes,
Oh,
um, when the day to open, my mentor became ill, and so I was it. So I had never managed in this position, but I've taken inpatients, I've done documentation, and I knew CPR. So there was myself and a healthcare aide, and we took our first individual into long-term care in 2018. We opened the doors in July, and it was a 60 capacity long-term care. So obviously the more staff came as we had filled up the place. So it was one of my highlights in my career. It was great with the mentoring, and I felt very rooted and grounded in my capabilities to do the things I needed to do. But I feel that that didn't include everything that was going to be coming forth through me. So not only did I have things that rocked me in my career, but I had things that rocked me personally. So
Yeah.
I was very grateful to have that opportunity to work with Villa Marie in Red Deer long-term care.
Yeah, I know what it's like when you're in the home care services and all that stuff too, because that's what I just gave up was the franchise. I own two franchises for, as you know, for home care, and
Yes,
it's hard. We lost like 12 or 13 people over Christmas time, and
yes,
it was really hard on the impact of my the people working for me. I had 33 staff, and like 12 of them were out of work now because they were so used to working 10 hours a day with these people. And it's like, wow, what do you do? So I had to basically get them to help with counseling debrief, as you know what that's about. I mean, it's not easy to do when you're trying to run a business, trying to debrief all these people, and they felt like they were friends. I'm sure you felt the same way when you had people there too.
absolutely. Like extended family.
Yeah,
I had an open door policy. I allowed family to come in. I often sent emails to family in regard to how their family member was doing, often updating by even text messaging. It was an amazing realm, and maybe a different realm from what the hospital was, but I tried to have that connection because I firmly believe that that connection had a lot to do with our health and outcomes.
of course.
Hmm.
So, what is your highlight of the best thing you can actually say about being a nurse?
The best, the best part about nursing was connecting and getting to know different people. We Nursing sometimes can feel like there's a lot of task stuff, but there's an amazing other side to nursing that has nothing to do with task related. In fact, it has everything to do with people, um, connections, communication. Um, the thing too is that there's an ethical responsibility too. So to keep in with that ethical responsibility of being a nurse, you had to love what you were doing, and you had to love to serve. And serving means sometimes often giving and not getting anything in return, often taking things that maybe you didn't feel that you should take, but being grateful to the opportunity to learn about other people, other dynamics, other things going, other disciplinaries that are coming in. It it's not it's just not giving someone a bed bath and medication. It's that was a connection. I enjoyed the bedside connection. I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed playing cards. I enjoyed sitting there, and a lot of people, individuals that I'd have maybe on a shift, were going through the end stages of life. Not everybody has a family or a friend that comes in. And I often felt that I was blessed to have that opportunity to connect with people at this stage of their life. It was a real blessed opportunity for me. So often I just uh, would hold their hand, and I would just let them know that they're loved and that they were appreciated, and that everything else that happened or didn't happen was irrelevant to this moment right now, that it was just the pure love and light coming down, um, for their next part of
Quite
their life.
scary. It's scary. Yeah, it's scary because you there's things that happen that you can't do anything about.
Right.
That's part of it that we're going to talk about, but when we get to your book area,
Okay.
because that there's the main part of the book right there, why you wrote the book, and we'll talk
Yes.
about that soon. But the one thing I want to do is talk about what you do in spare time. Did you play any instruments or?
Yes. In my spare time, I I was a natural competitor, so I was
I would say they don't know this yet, but it's coming up.
it's coming. Uh, I was always an athlete as a kid. So I spoke earlier about the arena in our small town. So I took figure skating all the way to the top of figure skating, and so I could either teach figure skating or I could be competitive. Uh, However, the competitive skating was in Winnipeg. It was an hour and 20 minutes from where we were. So I didn't have family that wanted to travel that far. So I went into curling. I dipped into curling all through early elementary, junior high, high school. We did high school provincials. We did high school Pepsi juniors in Winnipeg. So I had an opportunity to play against some of Manitoba's individuals were who were recently in the and for quite a long time at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. It was great. I love the camaraderie of sports. Sportsmanship is huge with me. So after I graduated, I did a little bit of curling, but not the level that I did in high school. So I decided that I would start going to the gym just for fit. But then, then the other
It
side
turned
came in
into
and I'm like,
something else, didn't it?
yeah, it turned into something else. So
There, for everybody to see, look what it turned into. Like, look, I'm going to the gym just to get fit, she says.
yes, so that's me as a natural pro athlete. It was 2013. I got my pro card right there. I was natural fitness, fit body and figure. I was
That's
in my
crazy.
I was in my 40s. I didn't know if I was ever going to get it. That there is a large amount of dedication, commitment, compassion to getting yourself in that degree of fitness with 4 kids, going through a divorce, um,
You
and
did
then
that.
later,
You did all that going through a divorce with 4 kids.
yeah. Well, I had all my kids, and then I was going through a
So
divorce. So,
did you
so my
actually
last,
use
mhm,
your emotion that you were going through to take it out on the weights or
yes,
wow.
or running.
Running. I can't run from here to the side of the street unless you have a pork chop.
So it was something that I was compassionate about. I felt good about it. Again, I could connect with people. So I realized that I have a knack for connecting with people. There's a layer of component for compassionate, for joy, for peace, for love on various levels of friendship. There's a spiritual love. There is the love of compassion. There's a love of healing. Um, and then I wanted to use what I had in nursing to also kind of make those components work together. So then I was often did a lot of talking with staff and how you could add exercise while you're working 3 jobs. I had 3 jobs. I was not the I didn't have the money, per se. So I worked 3 jobs, was raising 4 kids. It was just very different, very different.
Good on you. Good on you though. You stuck with it. You did it, and you've had some very good outcomes for it.
I did. The last year I competed was in 2019, 2018. I competed last. At that point, I guess I realized that my body was catching up. The stresses were catching up because I couldn't lean out as much as I had wanted. But I still go to the gym now
I
too.
I uh, I coached the guy for 6 months. It was drugs and alcohol. He came
Yes.
to a facility once, and it was Mr. Canada. I can't tell you which one because of the reason for confidentiality. But it was Mr. Canada, and he come in and he's standing there talking to me. All of a sudden, like he would back up like 3 feet, and he'd start doing backflips and everything else, and all these weird kicks like Taekwondo and MMA fighting and all that crap. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? We're supposed to be talking here. He goes, but I got to loosen up. I said, what you loosen up for? You loosen up your jaw, not your rest of your body. And he would do that all the time because he's so used to working out and he had nothing to work out with, right? So, I mean, he was just trying to loosen up. And he at the end, he come up, gave me a kiss on the cheek. He says, you're amazing, man. You're amazing. He says, your coaching skills are unbelievable. And I said, if I can get past your skin, I guess I am. I've dealt with some of the top lawyers and some of the top people in the world, to some of the people living on the street, as you know. I mean, come on. I dealt with all types. I don't degrade anybody for what level they're at. I just look at them for, okay, what kind of dream you're going for next, and let's work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Even with yourself, I said to you, I said, you want to do a book? I said, well, let's take our time because this is a pretty tough book for you to write.
It was. It was. I. It was at a time I wasn't expecting. I had just the kids had wanted to go back with their dad, so it was a stressful time as I had moved us out of one place into another. I was still working 3 jobs at that time, but we managed. We managed. I wanted to support my kids in the decision that they were making, as it is difficult for parents to support their kids, but it's safer to allow them to make those decisions when they're still in a protective area
Sure.
because they have the
That's way to put it.
ability to come back. Uh, so of course I changed places, and I still had good connections with my kids. And then after my last competition in 2018, I had realized, this was October 2018. So November is when my youngest Juliana, she was 10, had various complaints of feeling unwell. So with my nursing experience, you know, I had felt that I probably would have put this together sooner than later, but I guess it just seems longer when you're running around trying to figure out what it is. I had a friend who was helping me with coping. I didn't, my family's still in Manitoba, so I don't have a lot of family here. And my in-laws were, of course, and I don't blame them, were very supportive of their son. So I didn't have someone that I could, can you help me out? I didn't have anyone to kind of talk about the stressful things that I was going through. So it's interesting that my group got smaller. So
It,
again,
it's so
I,
true how that happens because, it's almost like people don't want a burden and they don't want to deal with other people's problems. And this is a huge thing that you need support with,
yes,
you
it
know.
was at the time, absolutely. I could, call my mom. I could reach out to her that way, but there's nothing like someone meeting you for coffee, someone giving you that contact, the hug, and I guess maybe that's where I made my connection with those in the hospital, was just listening and participating and helping them heal, untangle trauma. How can I support you, right? It was one of the things that I love to give to others, but I just didn't, I guess, have that at that moment. I did have a friend. Um, Her name is Roseanne, and I love her so much. And I know that she was busy too, but she like gave me the best of her. And she was also my coach through all my athletic pro cards and such like that. We traveled. She also had a pro card, so we traveled. So I could. I could lean on her, but the trouble with this is it's heavy. And when things are heavy, you often, and you may not realize it, but you can also dump your things on people and you don't realize you're doing it.
Yes.
So listening isn't supposed to be stressful, but not everybody comes with the skills on how to get rid of that stress. How do I deal with what you got without taking it internally and processing it myself? Because that's what a lot of times we do. So I had went to several professionals, including our family doctor, and Julianne had symptoms of she couldn't sit properly. And I picked her up from school, and her feet were almost like on the roof of the car. And I'm like, hey, like this is not how we sit in the car. And she said like she couldn't sit. And so Julianne was big in cheerleading. Julianne was big in, she was just starting out pond hockey. She enjoyed doing various gymnastics. And so she had a pond hockey land training at RB. It was RDC at the time. Now it's Polynic at Red Deer College,
Hmm.
and it was for all girls. So we were quite excited about it, and we realized that Julianne was having difficulty with her flexibility, and I'm like she was just doing walkovers the past week. So I'm like, something's up. So we started with a chiropractor. We went into walk-ins, we had x-rays, we had various amount of things, but the level of pain this girl was enduring was like 100 out of 10. And I recall she was hitting the side of the car, inside of the car door so hard that she just wanted this pain to go away, that was my wake up call. So this was the end of December. So this was 2 weeks of working full time plus still opening up a long term care. So I was working more than full time. I missed a lot of picking up kids from school. Either I was late and that late could have been an hour and a half or 2 hours. I felt terrible. Um, but I didn't have my mentor. And so I was doing the best that I could. My friend, who was also helping out with family, had just bought a home. So I was moving. I had kids that wanted to move back with me. I just had so much, and I tried to cope as best as I could. So when I realized the amount of pain, so what she was in, it had dawned on me that this might be cancer. But in my practice, I had not had a lot of experience with cancer. My dad did pass away of cancer, but it was so quick. So I had reached out to Juliana's family. Her dad worked in the oil field, so he wasn't available all the time. And it's not a drill, but it's almost a drill. If you're if you're married to someone in the oil field, when things are on, they're on, and when they're off, they're off. But there was other components and levels and layers to this, and we were still not finalized in this divorce. So there was a lot of emotion. Uh, the kids had just moved, and then kids were coming back. So there was all this heaviness, and I just wanted to get to the fact that, hey, like one of our kids is suffering and I need your help. So I didn't want to have to go through all the drama to get to that. And it was so tough. Um, we had court orders not to speak to each other. Um,
Wow.
we had to speak and communicate on an app called Family Wizard. My I had to pay. I didn't get child support when I had the kids for 3 years on my own, but I was paying child support, and um, it was it was like financially strapping to make everything work. But at this point, I needed to find out what was wrong with her. So we could not coordinate together to get her to the doctor. So I had Julianne till after Christmas, because her older sibling was now with me. I had um, I had documentation, so she didn't have to go back if she didn't want to, but Julianne had to. So um, it's not something that is a positive environment for growing when you have to force a child to go one way or the other. I could always appreciate when people had an openness where, hey, you could go here sometime, you can go here sometime. I feel that children need to build so much and develop so much, but still need the family. So now we were building a family, we were raising a family together, but apart. And it just seemed more apart because I could feel that stress. And that stress, you don't ever know if that trickled down onto your kids. It does. And I'll talk about that later. So Juliana had went back to her dad, and I had got some results back from the doctor, and yet it was too emotional. It was too hard to get through that barrier. So, I mean, absolutely, I discuss it in the book. I don't know if I want to say it on here, but I was to the point of I was going to call the police to get my kid out of his care to get her to the doctor because her life depended on it.
Mhm.
And sometimes being a parent, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to say, you know what? I'm all in as a parent, and this is what parenting is all about. And I'm sorry that, there's other emotions, but at that point, that wasn't important. Her life was. So after I had laid that groundwork, they were wanting to move forward, to go see the doctor or take her to emerge. So it's funny at this point. Red Deer and Edmonton are about an hour and 45 away, but Red Deer doesn't have necessarily a pediatric emergency to deal with what was to come. They have pediatrics, they have great professional staff at Red Deer, but I had no idea. And had I known that Edmonton had a Stollery Pediatrics hospital, I would have just taken her there. But I suspect that this is just the route that it was supposed to go. So I questioned it for a long time, but I had to let it go. So they finally found out that her lump in her lymphatic system had grown. And so they knew at that point, when her dad taken her to emergency a second time, that indeed needed to be looked at by an oncologist. So that started our journey to Edmonton Stollery. Of course, there's always different things because I wasn't the one who arranged the appointment. And so you're, I know it's not for everybody, and I probably shouldn't say this either, but I'm going to say it. You know, people make choices every day. So you can either stay together and work it out, or you can leave. And that's okay too. It is absolutely okay. It's not it's not mine to hold. However, when it comes to parenting, I don't necessarily agree that parents who are participating are replaceable. So a mom is always a mom and a dad is always a dad. And marriage and divorce cannot replace one individual with the other. I understand if circumstances, you know, there's circumstances that can happen, but for a parent to feel that they're replaceable is so I was told that the appointments were made. I should stay home because his wife was going to look after it, and his mom was going to be there, and there was no point in me being at this appointment, and that they would call to let me know what the tests outcomes were going to be. And I thought, no one puts this mama in the corner. This mama has worked way too hard for this family. And so I will be there at this date, at this time for my kid and for my family. So, they arose, of course, earlier. He went back to work. Julianne's dad went back to work. He was on an oil rig. He was on a rotation, and this was an urgent appointment, so it's something that he couldn't miss. But I'll tell you, I was the only one who had the signing authority because I was the biological mother. So that day, I signed so many papers. We talked with the oncologists. Neither of the individuals that came with me couldn't have signed any paperwork, which would have meant that Julianne wouldn't have received anything unless, they of course overrode the parental.
Way.
Yeah. However, it probably sounds negative right now, but let me tell you, there's always a reason why you're set up with the people that are there.
So true.
And I firmly believe that my ex-husband's wife and my ex-mother-in-law were in that room with me because we were setting roots. We were healing. We were communicating the things that people don't talk about after divorce. I had just got divorce papers the week before we came into this meeting.
Wow.
And I had spoke to the oncologist and gave her, what I had taken as a history from my daughter. And I said, just please don't tell me this is cancer so that we can get this appointment done and I can take my kid home. But she had to be carried in because at this point she wasn't walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that she had pain management when she got there, and she'd only been there 2 hours. They were giving her morphine. So I completely understood a protocol was already happening before we were already informed. So it was a very emotional time. They needed to do tests urgently to figure out what we were dealing with, where it was coming from. Julianne was just distracted, which was fine. She had her phone, she had all kinds of things to distract her. But what was more important is that my ex-husband's wife was very supportive and loving toward her. Grandma, my ex-mother-in-law, was very supportive. So if I had to leave the room, I knew her for 18 years. So these are people that I could trust to leave my kid in a room while I left to talk to the oncologist. While I was asked to speak to my ex-husband, even with the court order, the doctors did not want to speak to Mike, to the ex-husband. In fact, I had to FaceTime him. So it was just a familiar number, but still dealing with, okay, this is more than me. This was, I almost got that download that this was not about me. This was about everything else that needed to heal and move forward without friction. And so I did my best just to still process emotions, but let go of it at the same time. And a book never came to my mind. I'm like, there was no possible way at this point, a book was even viable.
I didn't think so.
No. So do you want me to continue?
Oh yeah. No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay.
Since
So,
in the middle of the conversation.
okay. So at this time, Mike was at an oil rig and he was going to be there for the next 3 to 5 days. So I started transitioning out of fear and lack into what can I control, what can't I control? How can I be supportive? So naturally, I was with someone for 18 years who was in the oil rigs. So I said, hey, is there any way, can you work it out with an other individual that's working with you? Can you connect with who he was working with? A lot of times when we get news, but nothing was confirmed. So this is what we talked about. They had an MRI of Julianne. So I showed the MRI and I had told him that, they suspect this is cancer. I said it is from head to toe. So it's called rhabdomyosarcoma, but she also had a mutation. So it is a soft tissue cancer. It attaches to everything because kids are still growing. So, I mean, kids have a lot of soft tissue in their bones. That includes the skeletal, the central nervous system, her secondary characteristics, her lungs, her bones, her blood, the lymphatic system. Those are all interactive, connective areas. So I had expressed that she would probably be palliative, so that we were probably looking at the end of life. But I needed to reach out to him so that we could make health decisions for our daughter. And it's so weird because we couldn't make divorce decisions, but we had to make health decisions for our sweet Juliana. So what did that look like? How are we going to make it through? Because he was married, I was single. I didn't have anyone in my life. And our divorce was just finalized. So, okay, I decided to get my foundation at that point. I encouraged Mike to come when he could, that I was going to manage what I could. I would give him daily updates. Could be more if I had test results that we would need to be made. And then the fact that any decisions that were parental, that would include him and I making a decision for Julianne until he could come. So we didn't know what that looked like. So Julianne was settled. I went home that first night because I needed to get some daily care stuff. And then I needed to find out where I was going to stay. So she was admitted on the unit. So my ex-mother-in-law and my ex-husband's wife stayed that first night with her. I had forgot to mention that I did bring Juliana's sister Caitlin with me. So I did have support on the way up, and she supported me on the way back. So Caitlin was quite aware of the undertaking that was going to happen. So we also had a really great cry and a hug because now we knew what we were kind of dealing with. But there was an urgency as well. So I didn't take long in Red Deer. I was back for 8 a.m. And and then it was just Julianne and I. So I needed a place to stay. So I reached out to the social worker and I gave her all the paperwork I had because having just finished an emotionally charged divorce, I didn't know what was going to come at me. So I just wanted to prepare and also let them know what things were like and the unknown. I mean, it's all unknown at this point. So I had put my name at Ronald McDonald House. They were full. So the pediatric unit on oncology had a bedside cot, and that's where I stayed the first couple nights. And then her dad miraculously said, hey, like, I'm on my way. So this was great news. They were talking about doing emergent radiation with Juliana first. So radiation meant that we had to find somewhere around Stollery Hospital, Edmonton, that could do pediatric radiation stat. So stat means quickly. So that possibility was not near to us. So they reached out to the Cross. So the Cross does adults only. So Julianne was the first pediatric to be seen at the Cross for emergent radiation. So the tumors had progressed quite a bit on her perineum and her sacrum of her spine. So that it took away her ability to sit, her ability to walk, her ability to have fluids and excretions from her stomach content out. So they needed, at this point, for pediatrics, they treat to cure. And so it was such a relief to me after seeing the MRI. So it was such a relief that they were going to treat to cure. And you hear so often that families have to strap and secure their another mortgage to get chemotherapy or medicines to treat their kids. And I'm like, I didn't own a home, right? We just went through a divorce. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And in fact, I didn't even really know if Julianne was at the point where she wanted to. The kids have been through this wild emotional divorce. They moved from one house to another. I didn't even know if she wanted to go through it. So it crossed my mind. So her dad came and it was the first time we hugged. Like we hugged and tears, like a lot of tears flowed that day when he came. And it was quite a connection to have that we wouldn't have had if this opportunity didn't come up. It probably felt awkward for other people,
I can imagine. I can imagine.
but it felt good for me at that time. And I don't know how it felt from him. I've never asked.
I guess
But
it
our
doesn't matter now, does it?
no, no, it doesn't. But our kids got to witness that. And we spoke with the oncologist together as a family, and we were going to have a meeting. So we thought we would get prepared. But in the meantime, I had got a call from Ronald McDonald House and I had got a room. I was so excited. So Ronald McDonald House works one room per family. So the social worker had given my ex-husband and his wife a number so that they could stay at a hotel at a reduced rate. So the next day we met for a meeting, and it was an hour and a half meeting. So I had a friend, sit with me. And this is the individual that I had moved in because my like I was saying earlier, my friend Roseanne, love her dearly, but she's real busy. So I had, and my family live in Manitoba, so I had my one friend that I resided with. So he came. I was so grateful for our friendship. So we knew that Julianne at that point had less than 20% survival. And we knew that she was going to have multiple sources of a chemotherapy agent to try and keep this rhabdomyosarcoma with a mutation under control. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't. In fact, we were going to have to push the chemotherapy just to keep it at bay. So,
Yeah, I tell you, man, you're a strong woman.
thank you.
You're a strong woman.
So,
I don't know how I would have reacted in that situation. You know, I can't even
uh,
go to the park. I can't even go. My wife won't let me go to the park because she says you're too much of a dad, but at the same time you're way overprotective. If someone goes up and pushes my son, I'm going after the parents. It's also got a lot to do with the way I was brought up, and that you know what I'm talking about. The years growing up,
Absolutely.
the people I hung around with, and if you let it go, then they're going to come knock you out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we had spoke with our kids, our other kids. So Julianne's youngest of four. So she has three older siblings, and they were all in junior high and high school. So, and one was had just graduated. So we included them in the conversation and decided that before we would move forward, that we would ask Julianne what her thoughts were and her wishes, because she had already endured 6 weeks of cancer without some sort of pain management. So we met as a group. Child Life. Child Life's amazing. They're very supportive to family, but they help the kids cope with procedures. An
Yeah,
amazing, amazing team. So we asked that they be present and could help us answer any questions Juliana might have. So she was broken. She was broken when she heard that she had cancer, and she just couldn't believe that she's got cancer and didn't know
I
how
don't
she got
know
it.
if anybody accepts that. To be honest with you,
Yeah, it was it was an emotional time uh
especially at a
talking.
young age like that, eh?
Yeah,
You really haven't lived life yet.
no, but I think she does in a short amount of time. um I'll talk more about that after.
No worries.
So
I get all the time in the world. I mean, hey, you're a good person, and I've always been there for you, and I always will be.
thank you. So Julianne agreed that she wanted to move forward. She knew what was going to come. So she had several surgeries, including an ostomy, um, to relieve her bowels, 5 days of urgent radiation, which meant being in a position, a very still position for a period of time. Uh, she needed surgery to put in what it's similar to a central line, but they had to put a line in her chest to receive chemotherapy, a PICC line, and that was just the start. So the 5 days that involved the urgent radiation uh, moved us the most emotionally, as we hadn't quite got her pain management under control. So for Julianne to lay down flat for a period of time was excruciating pain. So a shot of radiation, which should have taken all of 30 minutes, took us 3 hours.
Oh wow!
Multiple Ativan, to a point where the ACLS had to call oncology to get an order to give her something, to give her some sedation so that we could get the pain under control to get the radiation done. So when we went, there were no, it was a skeleton crew at the cross. So we were blessed to be behind an area, but we could see her on the table. So we could communicate with her, we could calm her, we could read to her, we could play music, we could sing to her while she was trying to stay still for this radiation. We had moments where we had to leave the unit ourselves. The screaming, the yelling of her pain And I suspect it was a true reflection of probably how kids feel when they're going through a divorce. And I think we don't necessarily look at that. We look at how maybe we feel. But I encourage
Yeah,
families.
I honestly say that too, because I mean, I've dealt with a lot of individuals. I mean, as you know, I've coached over 200,000 people, in my whole career, and it's been estimated with big groups and everything else. But at the same time, when you're dealing with the emotional side of it, a child versus elderly person is totally different in the way they deal with their emotions on different things. The elderly person
Absolutely.
has no problem telling you, I love that person, I miss that person, and that, but the younger person doesn't really know how to express it.
Absolutely. Maybe I should go back. When an individual is receiving radiation, no one else can be in the room. So it's just the individual receiving that radiation. So with the screaming and the upset, we could not go in to comfort her. All we had was the speaker and the video so we could sing, talk, read to her, but we physically couldn't go in to hold her, to
As,
coddle her, to.
as a mother, that's got to be the toughest thing possible.
It was tough. My ex-husband was was more than over the top. It was emotional. He was ready. It I had to leave. I couldn't deal with that side. I wasn't ready. Maybe I just it wasn't my job now. It was his wife's job. And so I had to separate myself from him that way. It was tough because for 18 years that's not what I did.
Yeah.
But it was no longer my position. So uh we made it back to the hospital, more Ativan on the way because the way there and the way back was very bumpy. So being on a stretcher and in the ambulance was very painful for her too. So it was a stressful ride there. It was stressful there, stressful coming back. And then my ex-husband looked at me and said, look, we can't afford to stay in this hotel anymore. It's been 3 days. And he's like, we're going to have to go back to Red Deer. And he's like, do you have any ideas? And I thought, oh, thank goodness I'm in Ronald McDonald House. I, so I reached.
It's one thing you can throw out of that.
Yeah. So Ronald McDonald House is a great organization. So any families that are coming from out of city, out of province, have a place to stay. And within this place, you have other professionals that can help you along. So there's a handy bus that can take the family to and from Stollery. So you don't have to worry about driving. If you do drive, there's parking downstairs or around the facility. You have a room with a bathroom. So the beds are there. There's washer dryer on site. They have multiple volunteers that come in to cook meals for the families that are using the stollery. So I didn't have to worry about getting meals. We each family had a room and a cupboard space. So if you did buy groceries, you could put your groceries in your cupboard. Wonderful staff to greet. So I mean, there are a ton of.
That is sounds like a very, very powerful thing to have, because here you are, you're going through so much stuff at the same time. All you don't want to have a barrier of all the other stuff. So having them
Absolutely.
there to help you through that must have been huge.
It was a blessing because the numerous of community support. So we got to go to wrestling. We had free tickets to concerts. So there are community members that donated their box seat tickets for concerts, for hockey, for numerous things that took place so that families could get out and for a night out. various ticket draws so that um, everyone had an opportunity to join. So I called Ronald McDonald House back and I had asked if there was any way that we could get another room because I didn't want to share a room with my ex-husband and his wife.
Yeah, that'd be kind of yeah, no thanks.
I'm all for everything else. And I, God's like, Carrie, this isn't about you, but take a look at your kid because her dad is entertaining her and she's smiling. And she's the one that needs this. So this is not about you. And I'm like, I'm going to get pulled and I'm going to get stretched and pulled and stretched. So fortunately, Ronald McDonald House said 1 room per family. So I asked them if I could get another key. And after a couple hours thinking about it, before they went back to Red Deer, I said, here you go. We can stay in at Ronald McDonald House in this room, but here are my boundaries. These are my stipulations. Is that one night someone stays at Stollery at the cot at the bedside, and the other parents stay at Ronald McDonald House, and we'll switch back and forth. So that was my saving grace. So Julianne was going to have to be admitted for quite a while. So 5 days of radiation happened, and then we had to wait 7 because there are synergetic reactions and dysfunctional reactions that happen when you put radiation and chemotherapy together. So she couldn't be treated with the chemotherapy agent until 7 days after the radiation. And what's the thing about radiation is the results you don't see for, after day 7. So she didn't feel a pain sense of relief till after day 7. So it was quite a haul. We did it though. We made it through January. She started this journey January 9 at Stollery, and we got to February 14th. And I thought, wow, like this is great. They're talking about discharge. What does that look like? So, you know, one parent at Stollery, one parent at Ronald McDonald House has been working really well. I just had a little difficulty envisioning how this was going to look like with all of us in one room. So going back to Ronald McDonald House. So as I had talked about earlier, Julianne was going to need back-to-back chemotherapy. So normally chemotherapy is split up into sessions. So they might go several weeks in between one chemotherapy treatment and then the next one. So Julianne only had 5 to 10 days in between her treatments, so which required regular blood work, which also required us to give her a shot, which forced her cells in her body to pick up. So we didn't want a lot of white blood cells in her system because that meant that we couldn't do chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
So we gave her an agent that helped with that. So she got daily pokes when the blood work was good. It's called a GFS shot. And it allowed us to give the chemotherapy quickly. So February 16, Julianne gets discharged. So we're quite excited. But we were still in one room. So the morning of, her dad gets a call from Ronald McDonald House. And because we had shown such a great camaraderie toward each other and it was friendly, they offered us a 2-bedroom suite, the only 2-bedroom suite available at Ronald McDonald House. So I don't know. I mean, it's immaculate timing because there was a family in there before we got there. So that was a great savings. So I stayed at the same place in the same house with my ex-husband and his wife. Well, took care of our little one, our Juliana, and that allowed her siblings to come up to visit. It allowed uh, one set of parents could go back to Red Deer, so we could have some normalcy, visit family and such, or do laundry. I know, and then the other parent could have the next weekend. So it allowed us to stay in proximity to her healthcare, um, which was great. We made a medication log so that we knew that if there was a weekend, Julianne could go to Red Deer, could go back to school for a day or two. She wanted to do that. And so we worked it out so that we could have that flexibility, that we weren't giving her extra meds, that we knew that the meds that she needed were she was getting. So things were pretty good then, pretty good in the situation that it could be.
Hmm.
Julianne flourished though at
You
Ronald
know,
McDonald
you
House.
said the
She
right
was
way. You definitely said it the right way.
it was the best that we could make it in that moment. Julianne flourished as a mom. She wanted to hold the little ones, that were either coming for treatment or were discharged in between treatment. She did a lot of talking with kids in the hospital as well, offering them comfort. She would often watch a movie with one of the kids in the room. She wanted to circulate in the hospital unit to see if there was any kids that needed connection. And I feel that she's kind of like the apple that fell from the tree. um, she was needing that connection. She needed that input. She didn't want to be forgotten. So she made sure that those that she interacted with and touched, that there was something memorable that they would do together that they would remember. So she was creating memories. Uh, so we did a lot of that. And as time grew, it was harder for her dad and I to communicate. It was getting emotional. But we still made our trips around the community too. So connecting with gardens, and connecting with going out for breakfast, and connecting with other family members when we'd go home, connecting with school kids. She had school kids and pond hockey kids that would come up to visit her. Like, she had an amazing network of support. She had a Facebook. At one time, we did a GoFundMe, which we were so appreciative for the support that we had through GoFundMe. I was definitely, from my work, I was able to go on a benefit, so I could follow her on this journey on a stress leave, because I just don't feel that I could ethically work going through this journey with my kid. I just don't feel that that would be appropriate.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
Yeah. Um,
You can't put your mind to where you're supposed to put it at work when you know your child's suffering at home.
absolutely. So it was hard on the other kids too, because um their younger sister was ill. And I had myself in counseling. I put Juliana in counseling because I just thought that there'd be things that she didn't want to talk to me about, but maybe she needed to talk to someone about. And I felt her therapy was amazing. When she'd go into therapy, I don't know what they talked about. That was confidential. And I never asked. But I did ask my counselor at Stollery what the sand was for. And they have a cookie jar of sand, and it was all kinds of colors. So when a child comes in for counseling, they have, if you can imagine, ketchup and mustard hot dog bottles full of colored sand. So they would take the colored sand and they would put it on a pan and they would draw out with the color their emotions on how they were feeling. So there was like black and red and green and yellow, all kinds. So they'd fill this plate and then they'd turn on a lamp and they would put the pan under the light and they would say a verse and then they'd shift the pan. And they said it's like your emotions. Once the emotions are never the same. So now look at what you had drawn. It's never the same as what it was. And then they would pour the sand. The kids would help pour the sand into the cookie jar. And inside the cookie jar, there was these sometimes 2 or 3, depends on how big the cookie jar was, 2 or 3 other glass jars. So those jars in there would collect some of the sand. And I had asked what that sand was for. And that sand was to give to parents who had maybe lost a child. So they could spread that sand, I guess, in a sense, like spreading ashes. But at this point in her journey, I wasn't thinking, I'd thought about it, but things were going really good. Things were going so well for Julianne. The tumors had almost shrunk up to nothing.
Oh,
We were so grateful, so grateful. And a part of me had like just wondered why we hadn't had a cure already for this. So even though things were going well inside my mind, I was in healthcare. So I'm like, why haven't we had the healthcare advances to have already a cure for this, right?
that's the strange part of it, because here you are in healthcare itself and not being able to do what you have to do to help your child. And you know, it's hard. I know.
Absolutely. Um, but things are going so well. We had a little celebration. Things were going very well. We had kind of a first family get together. So the individual that I I was co-living with was renting, we had a friendship and that friendship grew. And he also had has 2 kids. So things were going well. We had a celebration. We had all our kids there. My mom had come from Manitoba. My friend Roseanne had already been up, so I was so grateful for her support. I was so thankful my mom could come. I really needed her. I really needed her. I really needed a friend that could be more intimate in an open, vulnerable way, that I needed someone like that I could express that with. I guess I had those coping skills from before. So I knew I was going to be okay, but I was so excited to see my mom. During our celebration, though, Julianne got sick again. Like, she just went instant pale and no energy. So the fun was over and we took her to emerge. But I mean, she was still in her she had a beautiful summer dress on, and they commented how pretty, she looked. So it was yet another great distraction. But we went in for another blood. And at this point, I'm thinking, God, like, what do you want from me? How do you want me to get this out? How do I need to express your will in this situation to various amount of people who are going through divorce? They're grieving. grieving job, they're grieving someone they lost, they're grieving, a lost penance, they're grieving a lack of education, they're grieving that they lost their house. Grieving is so much more than just losing people, that I'm like, how can I compassionately get your message out?
Mhm.
So the book, the book crossed my mind. There were several times now that I recall standing in the hallway and I thinking, I can't believe I'm living in this under the same roof with my ex-husband and his wife. What do you want from me? Okay, so this is what I learned. We can actually have a family and raise them separate. But we need now to talk about things. So I don't know how many couples that are divorced can actually have a living conversation and make decisions. There was things about making memories. There was self-care. Like, what did I do to look after myself? I went outside. I just needed the sun on my body. I needed it on my face. I ran. So instead of running away from a situation, like I just ran. Ronald McDonald House put gym equipment in the basement because there was still ice and snow. So in Canada, we have ice and snow. But in the areas there was lots of ice and
More
I
than
almost
some,
fell.
more than some. Yeah, one thing about Canada, you guys in the States and all that other stuff, they get about this much snow and they close everything down. We get 6 feet, just park our car on top and go ahead with our day.
Absolutely. So Ronald McDonald House put a gym equipment so I could, do the gym. I still needed to make sure I was well hydrated. I needed to make sure that I was still connecting because I found my faith in my divorce, but I struggled because I'm dealt with this fact that I love my kids a lot. And there was no certainty whether or not we were going to get out of this together. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I bought a daily devotion book because I needed to stay connected to the universe, to the source, to the Holy Spirit, to God. So in a very short amount of time, this was the end of May, Julianne had a reaction. We had went back for we had MRIs and CT scans, and she had complications with the chemotherapy agent she was getting, but they didn't realize and they didn't catch the fact that she was having a reaction. And Julianne really just wanted me to be her mom. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to be your mom. I know your belly's swelling. I know that you need oxygen because your belly's pushing up on your lungs. But she said, just please stop being a nurse and just be my mom. So for 10 days, her liver was throwing out enzymes in her catheter. She had a Foley catheter at this point. So now I could see things were digressing. So now we were back into bed. Her walking was limited. And we just were not getting out of the hospital like we were. So at the 10-day mark, I had asked the intern if I could get a copy of the blood work. And I asked her what the liver results were. And I said, there's something going on with the liver. Absolutely. Because I said, the urine color is different. I have had this experience with my work. And I knew that something was going on. There was absolutely additional amount of fluid on her abdomen, and her oxygen demands were very high. So what happens in healthcare is we use best practice. So best practice is because it comes with backed research. So we use the best and highest intentions of products to give us the best results. However, it was not seen because Julianne's rhabdomyosarcoma group, research group, did not react to this chemotherapy agent. The leukemia kids research did. So I said, there's something going on. And wow, things really moved. Things really, really, really moved fast. Staff were coming in the room. There was blood work. There was an urgent CT scan. And at that point, they realized that she was having a reaction to a chemotherapy agent. But it was in lieu, they had to change the chemotherapy agent because she was getting radiation every 5 days now. So she was in the 6 weeks of radiation. So it was cool. We thought we were out of the woods, and we were excited. We were putting stickers up on the completion board. It was just one less down and only so many to go. It just didn't go the way we had planned. Still lots of growth, connection, but things were growing. Things were growing stressful between her dad and I, and we were no longer, could co co-partner, co-drive in the same vehicle. So his partner actually had to go back to work. So then it was just it was just him and I and Juliana. So it was just the three of us for a couple weeks, and he needed to get back to work. And so it just seemed like this whole matrix was doing a plinko. Not the plinko that you'd see on Price is Right. The plinko where you take the straws out and
Be a
the
whole
marbles are
different
falling
scene.
down.
That'd be a whole different scene.
Absolutely. So there's times that I just looked at Juliana and I said, you know what? I understand that you want me to go with you, but for my sake and my the good of me, I could not co-drive and co-collaborate in the same vehicle. At that point, I realized that like I'm worthy, and I just can't deal with those other emotions. Like I had expressed earlier, that I had to separate myself from that because I was no longer in the wife position where I could help him cope with that. Someone else was doing that, and it was hard again. It was like, I think I want to fix everything, and I have people that tell me, "Wow, like you must have some incredible genes because men want to fix things." And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I want to fix things. I want to make you better. I want to help you be successful. And so I've just learned that I have to do that self-care and that self-awareness and the mindset to notice those paradigms, break them down. What was dysfunctional, now I had to make functional because I needed to have me whole. And that wholeness involved having God in my life, because if I didn't have him in my life, things were like going to go sideways fast. We had kids that were using drugs and alcohol to cope with Juliana's sickness. So there was lots of things going on in the background. I had to choose what to focus on at different times. Julianne, um, after several attempts, did have to go to pediatric ICU. So there, they intubated her, and because of her liver function, I'm telling you the strength. So Julianne achieved so many things in a short amount of time. So she had to have a paracentesis, and they couldn't give her any sedation because um, her liver wasn't functioning well. So they did the paracentesis without sedation, and they drew off liters and liters of fluid. And they had taken her PICC line out some weeks before this time. So any IVs, or like needles that they put in the hand or the arm to give IV fluids or such, were not lasting. So she was having three IVs a day. So I asked them to do a PICC line. So PICC line is a insert that goes up into into the upper arm.
Hmm.
But also her liver enzymes were high, so she also had to have a PICC line without sedation. It was tough listening to your kid have those great health. They're great healthcare interventions. Don't get me wrong. We have we have good healthcare. We have great knowledgeable.
Have the best health care all you want, but when you're sitting there as a parent hearing your child going through that, it's devastating. I mean,
Absolutely,
you would know if anybody.
absolutely.
It's like what
I
my mom says to me all the time. You don't understand. I've lost three kids. I don't want to lose you. You're the last one. And I just laugh at her sometimes. I don't know what to say because I've never been down that road. Now, if I lost my child, that's a whole different world.
child life was right beside her. Uh, she could have Ativan, and she had an iPad for distraction. And child life stayed with her because they allowed her to get dressed and clothed. And so the parent doesn't necessarily get that opportunity to be that close because we can be reactive, we can be emotional, we want to reach in and coddle, you want to push away the hurts. And in these emergency situations, I couldn't do that. We had one chance to get those devices in her body to give her relief that I could be in the room, I just couldn't be there for
Mhm.
that. So um she stayed intubated, and we tried 3 times to extubate her, and we were unsuccessful. So we had a meeting with the pediatric ICU doctor, and their view looked a little different than ours. I don't know if you've ever had a family member that has been induced in a coma or have received a large amount of pain meds. So cancer is quite painful. So Julianne's elixir was ketamine. She responded very well to ketamine. Well, they give ketamine to horses. So that kind of explains the strength of ketamine. But she had ketamine, IV fentanyl, she had Ativan, IV morphine, and then they were giving her
That's
Dex.
some of the strongest stuff out there.
Yeah,
I started out with
Dexamethasone.
12 years as addiction counselor. I mean, I know these things. And it's also, ketamine is also part of a rape drug.
Yes, yes. But every 4 hours, that medication would wear off, and she would sit up and try to extubate herself. So she was very much alert and oriented had she not had any of that sedation management on board. So the my agenda looked different as a mother because I have a kid who's in between the spiritual realm on medication, yet physical every 4 hours, that she'd come out of that and want to sit up and take that tube out of her mouth. So I needed to protect her rights to be a child, to be human, to allow her to hear the decisions that we were making. You know, I don't know how many times we don't ask our kids, we don't talk about death and dying. But before we went to PICU, we had that conversation. I had the conversation with Julianne. I know her dad did too. We asked her, you know, things are good now, but you know how they can change. What does that look like for you? So we knew what that would look like, but we weren't not going to give an opportunity without actually talking somehow with her. So how do you talk to someone who's sedated and intubated? So at the 4 hour mark, I had asked the nurse to hold off on the IV fentanyl. And I just told her, like, look, we cannot get you 100% physical earth side, I can't get this tube out of you and still talk to you. So this is the best that I can do, because I had no right to take that out, because that's of a higher hand, and I don't have that right for anybody. And so I told her to squeeze my hand. We had a conversation. She said that she didn't want any more treatment. So we couldn't move her home. We couldn't move her back to oncology. So this was it. We had asked the staff to reduce the oxygenation to see if her lungs could inflate, but because of I had expressed earlier, the 3 tumors that she had in her lungs, cancer always collects fluid. It's a nasty mutation of a cell that actually produces much quicker and faster than our regular cells. It is something that we couldn't keep up with. It's something that we couldn't cut out, but it did shrink. However, because she was in pediatric ICU, we could no longer get her to the cross because of her liver. So if her liver was well, they were prepared to take her to the cross, intubated by ambulance. But we were not at that point. So I was having this conversation with Julianne in between sedation. And so she chose not to go any further. So we had chose to surround her and honor that wish for her. And we had spoke with staff and with our kids. So they spent time with Juliana and all expressed their love for her. And we surrounded Julianne. We had a teacher. So when Julianne was ill, she was at school at Stollery too. So she was at a public school, but in Stollery. So her teacher read her Black Beauty, and we hadn't read Black Beauty to Julianne. We'd read her other books, but her teacher came in, and it was lovely. She read 20 chapters of Black Beauty while Julianne was going through various stages of we're now releasing her from the earth. And I guess maybe I should have explained that a few days before that. God had told me to bring her home, and because she was in more pain than I could imagine, and the kind of pain that we could not take care of here on earth. And it shook me. It rocked me. I had consulted with someone very important with me, and who was very solid in their faith. And he said, if that is the message you're getting, you need to honor that. So I honored that, and we honored that. So we love and miss Juliana. I wrote the book while she was receiving a blood transfusion, and it was just before she went into ICU. And I was able to, have some sort of expression and feeling and emotion, but what it was like for a mother to have gone through the divorce, not to have a raw emotion, a raw feeling, but to help heal the divorce, to help heal the family, so that she could have that healing that she so well deserved. So that was the start of Living Blended. And Living Blended is living with your ex-husband and his wife under the same roof, making health decisions for your child. And how can we heal that moving forward? How can we heal so we can have a healthy marriage in the future, so our children can have a healthy marriage.
So the book is almost ready to be out to the world. As you see, we got them both live now, right? As we were talking, it
Yes.
became live. But what we want to do is we want to give it a few days, a week or so, because what's going to happen is now it goes into 39 different thousand different distribution centers online. So now we have to let it time to blossom and go across. You know, at the same time, people have access to it if they want. As you see,
That's wonderful.
it's a big achievement. I'm proud of you for going through that emotion again to write the book. Took a bit of time, as we know, and I was very gentle with you about it and say, "Hey, let's do it, let's do it." No, I said, "When you're ready, when you're
Thank
ready,"
you.
I said, "Remember?" And I said, "I'm here for you, 100%."
Thank you.
I always, like I said, I always will be. I'll be here 100%. I don't even do publishing no more, and I'm still here doing it. You know what I mean? But I don't care if you want to do 100 books. I mean, hey, I'll help you through it. That way,
Thank you so much.
you go through it. You get it's an easier way to allow you to get things off your chest. You know, to actually talk to the world and let the world know right here and through a book that hey, you're not alone. When my mom died of cancer, it was devastating. It was the weirdest thing because July 20th is a weird day for me. My wife died 1992, giving birth to my son on that day. My mom died July 20th. My grandfather died July 20th, but my son was born. Right now, my son, he used to be a wannabe gangster. And if anybody sees my documentary, the one I have behind me here, Reinventing Freedom, they'll know that in there I sit there and say that I wanted to go in the backyard with my son, and whoever gets out of that backyard is the gangster. So my son would sit there and say, "You're going to beat the shit out of your own son." I said, "Look, I'm just going to do what it takes to make sure you're not a gangster." You know what I mean? Whatever it takes.
Yes.
2 weeks, 3 weeks later, he was raised not by me because I was not, I was always incarcerated and everything else, right? But raised by my aunt, which was a registered nurse, and she also had a daycare. So she actually raised him. And the 2 weeks after I talked to him about this situation, he actually told my aunt, I want to change my life. And he did. He went suit and tie for the rest of the years. And now he's a police
Wow.
officer. He says, the only thing I want to do is pull you over once. He said, I have that feeling I have to do it. I said, okay. I don't know what he's going to do. He's probably going to try and arrest me or something. I don't know. Just to make it look good, to make him feel good, But you know a bit about my back. You know quite a bit about my background. We've talked,
Mhm.
and the things I've done and things you've done, and the car accident. It's sad. It's almost like you try and get ahead. I mean, you can't go back to doing the weight lifts and being competitions no more. You've
Yes.
already established that.
Yes.
I mean, so what's your next goal? What's your next steps to do in business?
My next step, I took a course. I took a course in quantum biology, and I'm just finishing it up. So I have a presentation on how I'm going to use the applied quantum biology in, let's say, my work. So right now, we are doing authentic manhood. So we're working with, that's a men's group. So my husband is doing that because it's for men only. So he won't allow he won't allow me to go in, and which is fine. They're doing quite well. It was a good turnout. So I thought that I would use this quantum biology with the book and um, apply the connection and healing that I had from the book to real life and heal families, um, spiritual awareness or faith. I feel that that's where I'm being called to. So I am finishing up the last part of quantum biology, which requires how I'm going to apply this course. All right, Robert, I have to head out.
No
I have
worries.
another appointment coming up, but I appreciate the interview.